Good afternoon. Today is Friday, January 31st, 2025, and we'll be meeting in committee room 255 at approximately 1 p.m. with a chairperson to be announced. Thank you, and have a great afternoon.
Good afternoon. Will the Standing Committee on Crown Corporations please come to order? Before the committee can proceed with the business before it, it must elect a chairperson. Are there any nominations? Honourable Minister Schmidt.
I nominate MLA Rochelle Schott.
MLA Rochelle Schott has been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, Mrs. Schott, will you please take the chair?
Our next item of business is the election of a vice chairperson. Are there any nominations?
Recognize Minister Schmidt.
Minister Schmidt?
I would like to nominate MLA Jennifer Chen.
MLA Chen has been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, MLA Chen is elected vice chairperson. The meeting has been called to consider the annual report of Efficiency Manitoba for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2024. At this time, I'd like to remind everyone that questions and comments must be put through the chair using third person as opposed to directly to members and representatives. We have had a request from Efficiency Manitoba to have Michael Stocky, Vice President of Efficiency Programs, answer questions on the record in addition to the board chair and chief executive officer. This will require leave. Is there leave?
Leave has been granted.
Leave has been granted. Are there suggestions from the committee as to how long we should sit this afternoon?
I would say 3.5 hours.
So repeat.
Mr. Pinook?
I suggest 3.5 hours between the presentations and the questioning.
A suggestion of 3.5 hours has been made. Is that in accordance with the group?
Okay, so then
Emily Chen, do you have a suggestion?
I suggest 1.5 hours.
A suggestion by Emily Chen has been made for 1.5 hours. Is that agreed?
I would
Mr.
suggest
Pinook?
3 hours.
Okay. Mr. Pinook is countering with 3 hours. MLA Chen, would you like to repeat that, please?
I suggest 2 hours.
MLA Chen is suggesting 2 hours.
is that agreed?
Is that agreed?
No.
I hear a no. Mr. Pinook?
I would say 2.75 hours. 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Mr. Pinook is countering with 2 hours and 45 minutes. Is that agreed? I hear a no. Minister Schmidt?
I'll suggest 2.5 hours.
Minister Schmidt, could you repeat your counteroffer?
Pardon me, I would suggest 2.5 hours.
Is that agreed? Great teamwork, thank you.
So can you just repeat?
All right, the committee agreed on 2.5 hours. Thank you, everyone.
Agreed and so ordered.
Agreed and so ordered.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Does the Honourable Minister wish to make an opening statement? And would he please introduce the officials in attendance?
Everyone, and
I need to introduce you so your mic's on.
No, you need to say his name.
Oh,
Minister Moyes.
Minister Moyes.
thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone, and especially to the committee members. As the newly appointed Minister responsible for Efficiency Manitoba, it's my pleasure to be with you here today to discuss Efficiency Manitoba's annual report and the associated supplement for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2024. And so thank you for being here. I'd like to acknowledge that we're on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional land of the Anishinaabe, Anishinaabe, Dakota Oete, Dene Sulene, and the Neothook nations, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation, who have been stewards of this land since time immemorial. I'd like to welcome Colleen Kerluck, CEO of Efficiency Manitoba, and Jeanette Montefiore, Efficiency Manitoba Board Chair, who is joining us online, in addition to Vice President Michael Stocky. I'd like to thank all of them for their hard work, their dedication, and leadership of this very important Crown Corporation for all Manitobans. In March 2024, our government issued an exciting and ambitious mandate that assigns new and expanded responsibilities to Efficiency Manitoba and addresses a key priority for our government of improving affordability for families and businesses. Manitoba's Affordable Energy Plan further highlights the key role Efficiency Manitoba will play in achieving our climate goals and objectives. An efficiency-first approach presents a strong opportunity to manage our investment in electricity supply, create good jobs in energy efficiency industry, and keep energy rates affordable. We rely on the excellent work Efficiency Manitoba is doing to assist us in transforming these plans into a reality. 2023-24 was an outstanding year for Efficiency Manitoba. They achieved their highest levels of electricity and natural gas savings since becoming operational in 2020. The programs and rebates provided to homes, businesses, and communities have made facilitating energy efficiency upgrades easier, more accessible, and affordable for all Manitobans. Customers are choosing to invest in energy efficiency with the help from Efficiency Manitoba, and this is benefiting Manitobans by providing valuable energy bill savings and reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. The 2023-24 results clearly show that participation in Efficiency Manitoba's offers and incentives being paid directly to Manitobans are significantly increasing. This further demonstrates that they are well poised to execute on our updated mandate for them while they continue their strong trajectory towards meeting long-term legislated energy savings targets. I want to congratulate Efficiency Manitoba for the incredible work that they have done and continue to do for Manitobans. Their achievements are impressive and admirable. As we move forward, we are committed to enabling Efficiency Manitoba's work in supporting more Manitobans in reducing their energy use and bills, while simultaneously assessing all the additional benefits that energy efficiency provides, including Indigenous reconciliation and economic development. I look forward to the questions this afternoon and opportunity for Efficiency Manitoba to share more about the great work that they're doing. Thank you.
We thank the Honourable Minister. Does the critic for the official opposition have an opening statement? Yes. Okay, Mr. Nook.
Thanks, Mrs. Chair, and I just want to congratulate the new minister on his position as the environmental minister, and congratulations. And I also want to just let everyone know that my two colleagues here, Mr. Gunter from MLA for Moorland, and then also Mr. Bariza, who's the MLA for Portage with me. They'll be asking some questions throughout the afternoon. And I just want to thank the CEO and the chair, and your position again was the Vice President? Yeah. Thank you for coming today to answer any questions that we'll have. We really appreciate the time. I know the history of Efficiency Manitoba and the great work that have been done in the past and continuing to look forward. And also we want to know what the future is. And that gives us the opportunity to be here today to ask those questions, to understand what the opportunities are, what the challenges are, and also to make sure that everybody's accountable for a lot of the stuff that's going to be happening in the next number of years going forward here. So I look forward to having the time to have discussion and to have a good conversation back and forth when it comes to some answers and of our questions that we'll be having this afternoon. Thank you.
We thank the member. Does the representative from Efficiency Manitoba wish to make an opening statement? So Jeanette, you can have the floor first.
Oh, sorry, no first names.
Oh, sorry, Mrs. Montefiore?
Yes, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. I do apologize for not being able to be there in person, but I do appreciate the opportunity to ensure that I could join virtually. So as chair of the Efficiency Manitoba Board of Directors, I would like to thank everyone for participating in today's event. Since Efficiency Manitoba's board was created in May 2018, I've had the honor and privilege of serving as chair and working alongside my fellow directors, providing governance to support this Crown Corporation. We have worked collaboratively to establish a stable, responsive, and nimble organization necessary for achieving long-term electricity and natural gas savings targets in Manitoba. I would say that I speak on behalf of the board of directors when I say how very proud we are of the progress Efficiency Manitoba has made, not only in the 2023-24 fiscal year, but since their commencement in April 2020. The team at Efficiency Manitoba has accomplished a great deal and continues to build upon their well-established reputation. We've optimized a diverse portfolio of programs and offers and continue to pursue innovative ways to achieve deeper energy savings. Now, these efforts have resulted in higher participation and many positive outcomes for Manitobans in Efficiency Manitoba in 2023-2024. Now, within the 23-24 fiscal year, a new mandate letter was issued and the mandate letter now sets forth important priorities that will deliver benefits for Manitobans. Now, this is an exciting time for Efficiency Manitoba, as they are poised to serve as a key player in our province's pathway towards improving energy affordability and environmental sustainability. So we're looking forward to continuing to support the Efficiency Manitoba efforts and ongoing work to enable real benefits in an energy efficient future for all Manitobans. Thank you.
Ms. Kurlik?
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here today and share how Efficiency Manitoba has progressed with its mandate of reducing the province's electricity and natural gas consumption in our 2023-2024 fiscal year. And before I get started, I just want to thank Minister Moyes for the land acknowledgement. At Efficiency Manitoba, land acknowledgements are a regular practice. We recognize that our reconciliation journey necessarily starts with all employees being able to recognize and understand the history of colonialism and the acknowledgement of the harms done. So I'm proud to share Efficiency Manitoba's significant accomplishments in the 23-24 fiscal year. By many measures, it's been our most successful year to date, and I'd like to highlight a handful of these successes today. Since our inception in 2020, our mandate has been clear and focused to implement and deliver meaningful energy savings initiatives to all Manitobans, thereby reducing our provincial energy consumption and associated greenhouse gas emissions. In 23-24, our total electricity savings reached 84% of our legislative targets of 1.5%. I'm also pleased to report that our natural gas savings were 119% of our legislated target of 0.75%. And not only does this surplus contribute to pandemic-induced natural gas savings shortfalls from previous years, but it has the added advantage of contributing even more than planned to provincial greenhouse gas reductions. Manitobans participating in our natural gas offers have saved 29,000 tons of CO2 equivalent from being released into the atmosphere. With that impressive result, we can report that persisting cumulative greenhouse gas emission reductions total over 193,000 tons since 2020-2021. This has a positive impact on Manitoba's climate change and net zero commitments. These targets are both electric and natural gas saving. These targets for both electric and natural gas savings represent never before seen targets for energy reductions in Manitoba, all while the opportunities for savings over time diminish as the market transforms to more efficient alternatives. In addition, as the move towards decarbonization accelerates, electric load growth has the potential to further challenge achievement of targets that are based on our percentage of load, especially on the electric side of our business. With this context in mind, our savings achieved to date are noteworthy and wouldn't have been possible without the involvement of Manitobans in every corner of the province. Our results show increasing participation in our diverse and accessible portfolio of over 40 offers for residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, Indigenous, and income qualifying customers. In fact, in 23-24, we helped more Manitoba homes, businesses, and communities than in any of our prior fiscal years. More and more people are recognizing the many benefits of energy efficiency, and by making it more accessible and affordable, it's clear that Manitobans are seeing it's a worthwhile investment with short-term and long-term advantages. And of course, Manitobans need to know about our offers to participate in the first place, and so our creative and focused communication efforts have led to our brand awareness being measured at 73%. And that means we've nearly reached our 10-year target in 4 short years. It's only when Manitobans know about us that participation and all the benefits that flow from energy efficiency happen. Not only are Manitobans aware of what we have to offer and participating in our diverse initiatives, but they're also very pleased with their experiences with Efficiency Manitoba. We measured a customer satisfaction score of 89% in 23-24, basically meeting the very high target of 90% we set for ourselves. Our team is passionate and truly cares about prioritizing the needs of our fellow Manitobans, and we're seeing how every employee's dedication and expertise is positively impacting our customers. As we continue to enhance and optimize our offers and pay incentives to even more participating customers, our investment in energy efficiency for Manitobans has been increasing every year. We've seen year-over-year growth in spend for customer incentives, with us paying 2 times the incentive dollars in 23-24 than our first year or our inception year. These incentives go directly into the hands of Manitobans, helping them save today on the cost of home and business retrofits. But the savings persist beyond the initial incentives. Energy efficiency upgrades result in monthly energy bill reductions, improving the affordability for Manitobans and helping them save tomorrow. To the end of the 23-24 fiscal year, cumulative customer bill savings represent over $40 million annually, with persisting cumulative customer bill savings of over $97 million since 2020-2021. And these figures are impressive and have a tangible benefit to the everyday lives of Manitobans. Beyond these many accomplishments is the incredible team of hardworking industry experts who design cost-effective offers, provide technical expertise directly to customers, and deliver the back-end support to ensure everything we do runs smoothly. Our purpose-driven, collaborative, and supportive team culture, which values the contribution of every team member, allows our employees to thrive and take deep pride in their work, which in turn helps them to collectively put our customers first. We're proud to deliver a world-class energy efficiency program right here at home. And I'd like to thank the Efficiency Manitoba team for their excellent work in making these notable achievements happen. Energy efficiency has always been important, but as we navigate the evolving energy landscape and move towards decarbonization and electrification of building heating, transportation, and industrial processes, it's now even more important than ever before. Energy efficiency can assist in meeting a portion of this additional load. And the most cost-effective energy source is the kilowatt hour that you don't need to generate at all by any source. Being mindful of how much and in which ways we use our energy also has the benefits that go well beyond the energy system. People and communities see training, employment, and business opportunities through participating in and supporting our work. Businesses and industries have the opportunity to reduce costs, reduce waste, and increase their competitiveness. And investing in energy efficiency provides a guaranteed return financially through lower energy bills for the lifetime of the retrofit or measure, whether that's a home or a business. At the end of the 23-24 fiscal year, we received a new mandate letter from the government, and we're acting on these priorities and working hard to introduce new and enhanced offers to the market. It's an exciting time for energy efficiency, and this sentiment was reiterated in the recently released Manitoba Affordable Energy Plan, And I'm looking forward to seeing how an efficiency-first approach will continue to contribute to a strong, prosperous, and affordable clean future for Manitoba. And Madam Chair, I thank you and the Minister and the committee for taking the time to meet today, and I welcome any questions you may have about our 23-24 annual report.
Thank you. The floor is now open for questions. Mr. Panook?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I just have a first question here today. Last year, my colleague from Fort White, Mr. Khan, I was asked about the data over multiple years and showing the long-term savings that Manitobans can experience from efficiency measures. That was taken under advisement. Was this data ever compiled? And is Efficiency Manitoba in a position now to share those results?
Ms. Curlick?
Yeah, and if I could just clarify specifically what aspects of the cumulative results Mr. Panook is looking for?
Mr. Panook?
I guess, thank you, Honourable Chair. It was based on the question that was asked last year with my colleague, Mr. Khan, regarding the multiple data over the multiple years and showing the long-term savings that Manitoba had experienced, efficiency measures. So if there was some data that could be shared based on that question from last year.
Ms. Curlick?
Okay. So at Efficiency Manitoba, we look at savings in two different varieties. So there's the energy savings and also the bill savings. And so I seem to recall that at that time there might have been a question about the bill savings. So as I reported in my opening remarks, the persisting cumulative bill savings as a result of efficiency participation is 97.2 million for customers. And so the customer that saves in year one is still saving in year 4. So that's what we call persisting cumulative. Now, in terms of energy savings, the persisting cumulative savings on a gigawatt hour basis is 2,500, roughly, a little bit over 2,500. And on natural gas, it would be 101 million meters cubed. And that, again, it would be persisting savings. So the customers saving in year 1 are saving in year 4, as are the customers in year 2 and year 3, et cetera.
Mr. Panook?
Oh, great. Thanks for the answer. And it's just going on to, I guess on July 3rd, the minister's predecessor responded in a written question saying that it would be responded in due course. Honorable Chair, I think that we can now all agree it's relevant to this report, and because it directly speaks on the honest and straightforward release of materials that the CEO and the board chair may take as the undertaking today, and speaks to the committee's confidence that there is no political interference. So I asked the minister why this material was suppressed, and will he commit today to provide any response that either the CEO or the board chair take as an undertaking immediately?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. The information from Efficiency Manitoba, they've been very forthright with any information. They just answered your question in terms of the cumulative effects of their program, both financially and within their targets. If we don't have the information in front of us, we will always work to ensure that we get that information out to you.
The Mr. Panook.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I thank the minister. And again, we just want to make sure that any questions and any details that would be given back to us at any time after these questions are asked. If there's no answer at this point in time, that would be a timely opportunity to get those questions asked in writing. We've been previously asked about expanding the availability of small business grants, specifically about working with small and independent Manitoba companies that want to help to provide such renovations and improvements. Is this something that Efficiency Manitoba has looked into over the last year?
Ms. Carlick?
Yes, thanks for that question. Efficiency Manitoba is very proud of the business programs in particular that we have to offer for small and large and very large businesses in Manitoba. So we have a small business program that's targeted particularly to a smaller business, presumably the type of business that you're referring to. And what that offer does is has a pre-qualified contractor that's been hired by Efficiency Manitoba go visit the business, immediately install low and no-cost measures for energy efficiency that they see available, and then do an assessment for deeper retrofits as well. And at the end of those deeper retrofits, we offer an enhanced incentive for those upgrades, recognizing that sometimes the smaller businesses are maybe not the target of suppliers for lighting retrofits, for example, because they are maybe smaller, the economies of scale aren't there, located in remote areas of the province. So that offer is available, and we've seen a number of small businesses take up that offer. You know, we try to celebrate our small businesses. We know that they're the lifeblood of the Manitoba economy, and we actually just had a contest in October of this past year where you could nominate your favorite small business, and they were randomly selected and received a $500 bill credit, which, you know, at this time we know would have been something very welcomed by small businesses.
Mr. Pinnock?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. And yeah, I believe, like myself, coming from a small business environment, one of the things that I had to be, that goes back to 2001, that when we built our office building, when it was an insurance agency, investment, financial planning firm, we actually did a geothermal, and we had enough land beside us to drill a number of wells. I think we need to do 10 of them just to, you know, but it was the best decision that we made. But I hopefully that continues with small businesses that you guys are willing to work with. I wish we had some of that, the Efficiency of Manitoba back in those days, that we would have been able to get more, you know, we basically covered it all ourselves. But it paid off. It paid off in tenfolds. It was the best heat, the best cooling, but it does cost a little bit of money too. But it was also that opportunity to sell the building when we did to the buyers that bought our business. And so to this day, I think it still was a good decision to make. And overall, is there something that the minister would consider making a priority? And can we expect an update next year that Manitoba small businesses are being considered to provide these services?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. What I would say is that business in general is a priority for our government. We always want to ensure that both all types of businesses are supported in any way that we can. I'm very proud of the suite of programs that Efficiency Manitoba provides across a whole sector or a whole variety of sectors and impacting Manitobans right across the province. They currently have a business program. They're constantly evaluating and reevaluating to ensure that Manitobans are getting the best programming possible, and that we're going to continue to see good results in terms of energy efficiency and cost savings.
Mr. Pinnock.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Minister, for the making sure that it is a priority for small businesses. They are the ones that employ most of the employees in the province, and it's important that they are considered when it comes to really helping the small business community out. The question I have now for the CEO is the Efficiency Manitoba at all concerned with the key performance indicators indicated in this report. We see that the private sector expenditures are lower than targeted and the consumers is higher. Is that a risk or another form of success in getting homeowners to participate?
Ms. Grelick?
Thank you. Mr. Panook is referring to the KPI table on page 13 of our annual report. And so I'll talk first about, I believe it was the expenditures with private sector, our 23-24 results being a much smaller percentage of budget than we had anticipated. And that actually was primarily due to the fact that we were budgeting to have had a regulatory hearing in that year. And so in that private sector bucket of budget includes, you know, the process of a regulatory hearing, the lawyers, et cetera, that are involved in that process. And that regulatory hearing did not happen. So that was a big portion of our variance under that particular line item. And then in terms of expenditures with customer incentives being higher than anticipated, you know, as with our energy savings performance, we anticipate a lot of fluctuation in both incentives paid and energy savings, just due to the fact of the multiple types of customers that we're targeting with our programs that are impacted by a variety of different scenarios, whether they be market or personal factors, that make it very, very difficult to be, I guess, on the pin on things such as customer incentives. And so, you know, a 5% sway going from 59, you know, 60% as a target to 65, first of all, isn't a large sway based on our business. And secondly, I think it represents actually a really good news story that more customers have participated and we got more dollars in the hands of Manitoba homes and businesses.
Mr. Panook?
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Chair. And I just another question I have here is I want to thank the CEO for giving me that information. And now on page 15 indicates that Efficiency Manitoba removed the cap of $25,000 on commercial solar projects. What kind of increase? What kind of an increase in uptake has this generated for the Efficiency Manitoba?
Ms. Grelick?
Okay, so I do have that data for the solar participation. It is a combination of our residential and commercial projects, so may not isolate exactly the impact of the 25,000 cap removal, although we do know anecdotally that our supplier partners and contractor partners were very happy about that. But we do see that at the end of 23-24, we were sitting at 223 participants. And to date in 24-25, we're at 201. So if we get more than 22 participants in this next quarter, it would definitely be an increase. Not sure of the significance of that.
Mr. Panook?
You know, thank you very much for that information. And the follow-up question here is, what kind of trends are we seeing? Is this increasing uptake most noticeably, and what is the average project value now? So has it been increased with now more companies coming on board to put in solar panels, or what are we seeing in the trend now?
Ms. Carluck?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we've noticed a trend necessarily in an increase in installers per se. You know, we did see a bit of a lift when the federal Canada Greener Homes program was in play, and there was the ability to stack their incentives with Efficiency Manitoba's incentives, and so there was certainly the ability to cover more of the cost, and solar systems do tend to have longer payback periods due to the savings. So I think the trend that we saw there was that the necessity to get a stacked incentive really moved the market. But other than that, I think it's pretty steady in terms of both participation and contractors available to do that retrofit.
Mr. Pinnock?
Okay, thanks, Honorable Chair, and thanks, Ms. Kurlak. I just have another question, and follow-up question on that one is basically how is Efficiency Manitoba promoting it? Like, are you basically advertising more, trying to encourage the public to buy in to doing more solar panels? And is that something that you guys also have a budget for when it comes to making sure that the public is aware of different grants that are out there?
Ms. Carluck?
Yeah, of course, Efficiency Manitoba does do advertising. The solar program itself would also do some advertising. I don't have numbers in front of me in terms of the investment in that. But we also definitely rely on our network of distributor and supplier partners to be doing that. Obviously, they are the first company to benefit from selling more solar panels. So we, of course, rely on them to be spreading the word about our incentives, and I'm sure it's something that they most readily do when they're looking to gain a customer to a solar panel.
Mr. Pinnock?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Basically, it's word of mouth, it's referrals and stuff like that. Is that something that you would count on, some of the opportunities where people have, let's say, individuals, customers have provided solar panels, and just the referrals of the opportunity that, let's say, a person who had solar panels would promote to a neighbor or a friend or another competitor?
Ms. Carluck?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say that the advertising is restricted to referrals. Like, we know that a lot of our customers in the rural install solar panels. So I do believe I know we were at the Keystone Agricultural Producers show. So I think solar panels are something that comes up a lot. So in terms of marketing, we have staff members that are at those shows that are talking directly to customers about the availability of incentives for solar. We also have a new business development rep that is focused kind of on the agricultural and rural market segment that would be obviously communicating those offers as well. So I definitely wouldn't say we'd be relying on referrals. There'd be a lot of, it's one-to-one in-person marketing that happens there, but in addition to brochures and targeted campaigns as well.
Mr. Pinnock?
Yeah, thanks, Honorable Chair, and thanks, Ms. Kurlak. A question I have, so when you talk about trade shows, I know we just had the Ag Days in Brandon, and I know it's very hard to get into the exhibits. It's one of the biggest trade shows in probably Western Canada, and I think there's a similar one in the summertime around Saskatoon. Is that something, have you guys had the opportunity to actually book yourself into? I know it's such a big event. I was around there all for about 3 days last week, but I don't know if you can always get to every booth, but I just want to know if you had the opportunity to at least put your name into, if you're not there, to put your name into getting a booth at some point. It's like almost like winning a lottery to get there.
I'd like to remind everyone that questions and comments must be put through the chair using third person as opposed to directly to members and representatives. Are you ready for a response? Ms. Carluck?
Yeah. Yeah, and I apologize in my last response. I think I talked about Keystone Agricultural Producers, who's an important partner for us and also sits on our Energy Efficiency Advisory Group. But I did mean to say Ag Days. Our team was absolutely at Ag Days, and I'm sure that we book Ag Days the moment we close up our booth and we book it for the next year. So Ag Days are a very, very important event for us to be at. And we're lucky to get that lottery ticket to be there because we were there.
Mr. Pinnock?
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Chair. And yeah, I just wanted to clarify that because that is the important time to, I think everybody that, especially in rural Manitoba, makes their point of getting there. So I just want to thank Ms. Carlec to give us the that they're there and that they are promoting the organization when it comes to efficiencies for this province and solar panels to for everything that there's opportunities to save on electricity and natural gas. Similar to the windows and doors rebate was increased, is there discussion of increasing this further, or is Efficiency Manitoba satisfied that it serves the needs of Manitobans well in its current form?
Ms. Carlec?
Yeah, so Mr. Panouk is referring to, again, I'll find the page on it, but one of the activities that we did in 23-24 to increase uptake in our programs was a doubling of the incentive for windows from $100 per rough opening to $200. And we did see a significant uptick as a result of that. Right now, the $50. I'm going to make a correction there, from $50 to $100 per opening. So I'm ahead of myself there. But what we would say about our windows incentive is that right now, and this is important for all of our efficiency retrofit incentives, is that when we're dealing with determining what is an appropriate level of rebate, we're looking at the incremental cost of the energy efficient alternative. So if you're looking to replace your window and you might be considering a dual pane, fairly decent argon-filled window, and Efficiency Manitoba is trying to encourage you to go to a triple pane, Energy Star rated window, that incremental cost might be in the neighborhood of $200. And so the $100 is covering 50% of that incremental cost. So we think that's fairly significant. And of course, what we hear from customers often is they're installing windows because of some of the energy savings, of course, but a lot of the non-energy benefits. So less draft, reduced noise, aesthetics of the home. So at right now, we're comfortable at the $100 per rough opening to see how the market reacts to that. And so far, it's been very positive.
Mr. Pinnock?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Again, thank you for the answer for the last question I had, and now I would go on to Efficiency Manitoba has tasked with assisting in, and to quote the framework letter, switching from fossil fuels to ground source and air source heat pumps. What is the status of this initiative, and what is the breakdown between air source and ground source heat pumps delivered?
Ms. Carlec?
Yeah, and thank you for that question. We're definitely, I think Mr. Panouk is probably referring to the Affordable Home Energy Program. And we are doing some really good work to get that program launched. And we look forward to giving more details about that very, very soon. One of the aspects of the Affordable Home Energy Program was a measure of affordability. And so part of the work that we were doing while we've been framing up that program was looking at what the options are for saving the most for Manitobans. And so one of the things that we recognize is that in terms of affordability and bill reductions, that is going to occur more heavily with electrically heated homes moving to geothermal than natural gas heated homes at this time. And so as noted in Manitoba's Affordable Energy Plan, we will be starting first with the electrically heated homes. And so we look forward to talking perhaps next year about how that program rolled out and how well we did.
Mr. Pinduk?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thank for the answer for the heat pumps. Like again, when I was talking about my own, like the own experience that I put in when it came to geothermal, the cost back then was new technology. Of course, it's like a calculator. When you first got your first calculator, I dated myself here. It was like $60-some to buy. Like it was not, and you got a basic calculator back in the day. And now it's like you can get all these fancy calculators, and you can get it for like people give them away because they're so inexpensive. But when it comes to the technology, now that with the heat pumps, what is the average cost now to install a heat pump? Let's say this in the city of Winnipeg versus rural Manitoba, because again, you might have the supply and demand when it comes to installators. And what is the cost maybe to look at in the north when you have the challenges of topography, the Canadian Shield, and then also at the same time, does the Efficiency Manitoba Honorable Chair have the numbers when it comes to the cost of these heat pumps in different regions of this province?
Ms. Carluck?
So we do have data on average cost of systems. What I will say, though, also is that this is not necessarily a regional cost comparison. Just from a technical perspective, we recognize that when you're living in the Canadian Shield area where there's a lot of rock, that necessarily the cost of a heat pump will be much higher, just in terms of, and even in some cases not even technically feasible, just due to the amount of rock that has to be drilled through. But on average, what we're seeing through our residential program is an average installed cost of $32,000 for a geothermal heat pump, and that number increases to $40,000 for an agricultural customer, and it ranges very wide. And this is the challenge with heat pumps, is that it's really based on the heat load that's required for the home or business. So and of course the drilling conditions. So we've seen a range of anywhere from $17,000 to $80,000 in terms of costs for installed geothermal heat pumps in our program. Now on air source, it's again, it depends on whether you're doing a ducted or a ductless system, but the average is essentially ranging between $14,000 and $17,000, and obviously significantly probably less than a geothermal. And I would say that a lot of that would be attributed to, of course, that with geothermal, you have the added complications of the drilling and going underground to get that heat. You get more savings from those systems, but of course, the cost is going to be more.
Mr. Pinduk?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thanks for the information of the different costs. So with when the new government came into power last year, there was a mandate that they were going to do so many heat pumps, 5,000, and now that you've basically, Honorable Chair, that the CEO has now indicated the cost of an average heat pump, is that viable? That the goals, the targets that this new government has set up for, is it viable, or is there going to be a lot more funding to make sure that it's affordable for, as you say, your average household to put those heat pumps in? And a lot of times, these grants are more for people with certain incomes that can't afford it. Is that kind of what is the program? Are you guys looking at, Honorable Chair, if Efficiency Manitoba is actually looking at making sure that people who can afford them, they don't get as much, they won't get the grant, but if people who have they need the affordability, they need to have, when it comes to heating their house, is it viable for the amount of money that's available for grants to actually be able to fulfill the mandate of, I believe, over 5,000 homes in the province?
Ms. Carluck?
So Mr. Pinduk brought up, several considerations that that we're working on with respect to developing affordable home energy program that makes sense for all Manitobans, of course. And, some of the things that we're waiting on, for example, is what are the federal program incentives going to be, and are we going to have the ability to stack those? How do we address, I mean, some homes will see more savings than other homes, especially, for example, if you're heated with electricity versus natural gas. So those are considerations. We are taking that target very seriously. We recognize that heat pumps are a more efficient way to be heating your home, and we would like to be designing something that is able to meet some of those challenges that you've mentioned in terms of affordability and whatnot, to make sure that technology is more accessible. And yes, it is a more costly technology.
Mr. Pinnock?
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Chair. And I guess when we're looking at northern communities, or we're looking at First Nation communities, the Indigenous population, I know it's so expensive to live up in the north. I've been up there many times as a transportation minister, and the challenges that they have to face. Are you working with, like, when you talked about the feds initiatives, are you in the talks with the feds to look at more, like, working together as an organization to work with the Efficiency Manitoba and the federal government to make providing more grants, let's say more opportunities for First Nation communities?
Ms. Carluck?
So Efficiency Manitoba definitely recognizes the energy affordability challenges with First Nations communities. And, with northern communities in particular, one of the things and one of the offers that we do, and we pay 100% of the cost of these retrofits. So not necessarily working with the federal government, but through our own programs, covering the cost of insulating the homes. So prior to even addressing heating systems, probably the most cost-effective and the most longevity of an efficiency measure is to make sure that your building envelope is very tight so that you don't have heat loss. And so that's one of the primary retrofits that we're really recommending for those communities. In terms of working with the federal government, we do sit on the Manitoba Indigenous Housing Capacity Enhancement and Mobilization Initiative that does have some federal representation. And that group works to determine how we can get more efficiency measures into the hands of First Nations communities. But at Efficiency Manitoba, we have established both an entire work group dedicated to designing and working with First Nation communities to design appropriate programs to address efficiency needs in those communities. And we have an Indigenous Energy Efficiency Working Group that we've established that we've had forums in Winnipeg where we've met with all the communities, a lot of them attend, to talk about what we can do to our programs to make them more accessible. And of course, we do a lot of one-on-one with communities too to find out what are their energy goals and what are their energy needs. And we don't look at First Nations community as necessarily a one-size-fits-all, because we know that communities may have different goals. And so we do a significant amount of work to make sure that what we're designing and what we're implementing to the market is something that results in energy savings and also fits the community's goals and objectives as well.
Mr. Pinnock?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thanks for the answer for the question I had. I'm just going to one step further when I guess Honorable Chair, that Ms. Kirk basically indicated that being up north, there's more challenges when it comes to geothermal, when it comes to drilling. Of course, there's rock bed and Canadian Shield. But is there an opportunity also to look at the, when it comes to lakes, especially there's many lakes up in northern Manitoba, using a lot of times the fish, they survive beneath the ice, and there's usually the temperature at the bottom of some really deep lakes could be just the same temperature in the summer as it is in the winter time. Is there opportunities that even in other communities, like within mining communities up in the north, is there opportunities that Efficiency Manitoba is working with communities and working with individuals and let's say Indigenous groups up there to look at that type of technology of geothermal, of getting the heat from the bottom of the lakes to be able to heat a lot of the homes in northern Manitoba? Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chair.
Ms. Carluck?
So I believe Mr. Panouk is speaking about lake loop geothermal. And so we are definitely aware of one community that has installed a lake loop geothermal, and I'm not sure if it's operating. I'm gonna take a pause for. Is it operating? Yeah. So it is indeed operating. It's in Northlands community. We don't have data on how that lake loop geothermal is performing, but we would absolutely support a lake loop geothermal if it is proven out to save energy. We would absolutely support it. We do have an innovation fund that helps with the feasibility, like looking at the feasibility of different options, and that sounds like something that could possibly fit into an innovation fund type of project. And then once we verify the energy savings, of course, that'll be something that we could implement with other communities as well. But again, you kind of need to understand what are the actual energy savings potential of that against the costs.
Mr. Panouk?
Thanks, Honorable Chair. And that just leads me up to the next question, is that let's say that pool of money that you have for research and development when it comes to, or the grant money that you've set aside, is there how much money would you happen for new innovations of geothermal, let's say the loops in the lake loops? What is the amount, what is your budget, and is it an opportunity to actually utilize that pool of money for going forward, and especially saving a lot of money especially northern Manitoba?
Ms. Carluck?
So our innovation fund will pay up to 75% of the feasibility of a project, up to a maximum of $250,000. So as I mentioned, the lake loop might be something that would fall under that that description of an innovation that we'd like to test for future energy savings. We've also used our innovation fund to assess feasibility of district geothermal loops in ground or using well-to-well systems in southern Manitoba. So, given that there's going to be a big focus on heat pumps, we have seen a lot of interest coming lately into the innovation fund with respect to innovative heat pump technologies. Of course, we wouldn't see the installation of a regular single-family dwelling ground source heat pump loop as being an innovation fund project. We have incentives for that now. But anything that is different than what we have incentives for today and has the potential to save energy, we would definitely look at.
Mr. Panouk?
Thanks, Honorable Chair, and thank you for the answer. That was great to understand that there's opportunity in the future, and that you guys are basically Efficiency Manitoba is looking at possible major programs like that. Last year, Efficiency Manitoba committed to getting a number of geothermal pumps installed that year. Was that ever accomplished? Can you provide? Do you have those numbers available now for what was installed last year for the program that of these geothermal heat pumps?
Ms. Carluck?
Yeah, so our data from the 2023-2024 year on geothermal heat pumps specifically, across several programs, of course, because there's not just one program for geothermal heat pumps, there's several. And we hit a total of 73 heat pumps. However, one of those projects was also a multi-unit residential building. So within that one project, of those 73, would have been 185 units or 185 families receiving heating through a geothermal heat pump.
Mr. Finnick?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. And based off the numbers that the CEO had provided, the 5,000 heat pumps that would cost more than the government previously committed, has there been any funding committed to meet the gap? That's almost 30% more than previously indicated at almost $8 million. So is there an opportunity to make sure that there's funding available because of the extra costs of these heat pumps?
Honorable Minister?
I just want to clarify something just for the committee. The member opposite right now is making an assumption that the cost of individual homes is going to maintain across into the future, and that's not necessarily the case. Like the costs outlined by Ms. Kurluk vary because when you're putting in a heat pump, as you described for your own business, you're on an individual basis. What we're talking about moving towards are programs where we're going to a district model. And so that's going to be able to achieve targets that are greater than and at a lower cost than what has been outlined.
Mr. Pinnock?
Well, I believe when the Honorable Chair, I believe as the Minister had indicated that it's sort of changing the basically it was promised during the election of 2023 that there's going to be 5,000 heat pumps for houses that need to have more energy efficiency, and that was what was mentioned was communicated to the Manitoba public during that election, that the promise of 5,000 heat pumps. And now they're looking at because of the realization of the cost of putting these heat pumps. So now we're looking at newer buildings that are using these heat pumps. Is that what the Minister is trying to communicate? Honorable Chair.
The Honorable Minister?
What I would say is that there's been a number of years, after 7.5 years of inaction by the previous government. Our government is committed to using all tools at our disposal to ensure that we're cutting costs for Manitobans, as well as meeting the emissions targets, and that includes using district geothermal. That does not necessarily assume that would have to be in new developments, although it could. And so we're going to be moving forward on all sources of efficiency, of different mechanisms of efficiency, including heat pumps of all kinds. Thank you.
Mr. Pinnock?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and I just have to let the Minister know also too that the 7.5 years we were the ones that established Efficiency Manitoba to make sure that there's savings and opportunities for efficiencies, and we believed in very much that that we knew that we'd want to do our part in the importance of efficiency. That was our promise and to the public, Manitoba public, and we fulfilled that, and that was important to us. So, but like I said, there was a promise of 5,000, and right now we're going to almost like 2.5, almost a year and a half of their mandate, and as we indicate, there's like 80. I believe there's 80 projects that were included. Maybe we can just clarify the amount of projects that the heat pumps were actually installed in. If I can ask the Honorable Chair, if I can ask the CEO, can I get the number again? How many heat pumps were installed in this last year and a half?
Ms. Carluck?
And my apologies, it gets confusing when you start talking year and a half and since what time, and so got a lot of numbers, but maybe, well, first of all, before I go to numbers, you know, there's a lot of different ways that we can accomplish the affordable home energy plan in terms of reaching Manitobans with the assistance that they need. And one of those considerations right now that is going to be a big component of those 5,000 heat pumps is heat pumps on First Nations communities using a community-driven outcomes contract model, where there's a third-party financial intermediary that is collecting different outcomes purchasers of Efficiency Manitoba is but one that is buying the outcomes of energy efficiency and energy savings. And so that particular model holds a lot of promise because the other outcomes buyers are also buying outcomes that might be more so related to the training and economic development benefits that occur to the community. And so when we have had some success in that program already, but essentially what that does, it brings other people to the table to contribute to that, and then the geothermal heat pump can be installed at no cost. So that one will be a big component of how we're trying to leverage existing programs to do the Affordable Home Energy Program. In terms of numbers, I'll give you just, I guess, a bit of an indication. The cumulative total that we've had, maybe not a year and a half, since inception, we'll call that from inception of Efficiency Manitoba, is more along the lines of 177 units. But of course, you know, we didn't have a geothermal heat pump incentive in the early years. We only started having our geothermal heat pump incentive for residential customers in 2021-22. So that's why it's hard to dissect the different timeframes in a year and a half versus what have you. But what I'll say about the Affordable Home Energy Program is that we have been working really hard, and we have a lot of great ideas on what we can do to combine all the different tools, as Minister Moyes alluded to, all the different tools out there to make a robust program that may not be a one-size-fits-all. It might be necessarily a multi-streamed approach. And absolutely, we don't want to restrict Manitobans that happen to have a home that is a multi-unit residential suite from accessing the Affordable Home Energy Program. So we absolutely believe that MURB, multi-unit residential buildings, would be part of that solution.
Mr. Pinette?
Yeah, thanks, Honorable Chair. And I just want to thank you for that information. And I believe now that we go back to 2021 and 2022 when the PCs were in government. And so when the minister says that the lack of what we've done, the 177, I'd like to know how many of the 177, how many were done since October of 2023 to now? And that's kind of a question I would have. And because, again, the mandate was 5,000, I just want to, it seems like it goes back to 2021. So can I get a breakdown of that?
Ms. Carluck?
So I do have fiscal years here, so it's going to be hard to pick October. But in 2022, 2023, there was 43. 23, 24, 73. And then back in 21, 22, there was 23. So we see some growth there. And we absolutely think that our incentive is making a difference. Part of the additional challenge with geothermal heat pumps is just the size of the industry to do the installations. As of January of this year, there was 23 members in good standing for installing geothermal heat pumps on the Manitoba Geothermal Energy Alliance's website. So part of the Affordable Home Energy Program and part of the work that we're currently doing is about how can we support that industry to grow so that we can see more installs.
Mr. Pinette?
Chair, it just seems like the numbers that I got here, it was the majority of them were done before this government even took power in October 2023. And the fact is there any more incentives to do more? what is this government giving the resources to Efficiency Manitoba to make sure that they succeed with their mandate of 5,000?
Ms. Carluck?
So I think that the Affordable Home Energy Program and the leeway for Efficiency Manitoba to be looking at the entire market and how can we reach those targets is what this current government has given us the direction to do. And so in addition to that, we've got a lot of great and forward-looking items on our mandate letter. And so we definitely look forward to reaching those targets using the expertise that we have in-house at Efficiency Manitoba.
Mr. Pinnock?
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Korlick, for the information that's very valuable to us. And I just want to stay on the heat pumps again. It was raised at this committee last year that there was a significant concerns of air source heat pumps below certain temperatures. I believe that the range of -20 to -25 Celsius. With retrofitting these fossil fuel to pumps, Honorable Chair, are there any old systems maintained as backup, or what situation are homeowners in with whether or not like the cold snap that we have this past few weeks ago and that we're going to be getting probably in next week? So I just want to make sure that is there backups? Is there a backup system that what is the concern that you let's say Efficiency Manitoba, by promoting these different heat pumps to air pumps, air source heat pumps, is there an issue there? And is it recommended that there should be a backup in cases of if they can't keep up?
Ms. Carluck?
So yeah, cold climate air source heat pumps may not be operating in the coldest temperatures of the year, but one thing I'd say about cold climate air source heat pumps is that not every Manitoban is going to have a setup in either their house or their geography that they can install a geothermal heat pump. So allowing heat pump offers that you can, that fit your needs best is important to us. And the other thing, I brought my engineer vice president here because I thought we could get some technical questions. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to pass it to Michael Stockey to address some of your technical air source questions.
Mr. Stockey?
It's a very good question and absolutely something we're fully aware of. So when contractors are outsizing cold climate air source heat pumps, either in an electrically heated home or a natural gas heated home, the capacity of the unit is absolutely a full consideration. Typically on a gas, when they're going into a gas furnace heated home, they're sized about 70% of the overall heating load, with the recognition that that natural gas furnace is still there to handle the peak heating load. And so you have basically a bit of a hybrid system. So there's lots of different factors, but absolutely you're correct in that cold climate air source heat pumps, they do have a cold temperature limit. What we're finding is that even switching over to maximize affordability benefits around -10 is kind of a bit of a sweet spot for switching over to your natural gas furnace. You can go further, but then you basically end up paying more in electricity than you'd be saving in natural gas at that point because it runs less efficiently below those temperatures.
Mr. Pinnock?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thank you for the valuable information. And the question I have a follow-up for that question, Honorable Chair, is that so some of these air source heat pumps are basically not even an option in northern Manitoba then? Like, is there a certain area that you would recommend in like southern Manitoba versus doing northern Manitoba? That's just the question I have.
Mr. Stockey?
Thank you. Actually, to the contrary, in northern Manitoba, cold climate air source heat pumps may be the only option due to the ground conditions. So it really depends where we are doing an install very recently in Lynn Lake, Manitoba. So we are doing some pilots also in Churchill, Manitoba, to test the effectiveness. So again, for shoulder seasons, as long as you have a backup system, they can be an effective solution and may be the only solution versus ground source based on the ground conditions.
Mr. Pinnock?
I'm actually, yeah, thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm actually going to a whole different view. Now we're talking about the north and the opportunities that you're looking at, feasibility studies and stuff like that. Is there any way, like I come from, my passion is landscaping and opportunities of, I have a greenhouse in my backyard and I really feel that, is there an opportunity now with Efficiency Manitoba working with, let's say, the communities, especially northern communities, especially First Nation communities, is creating, and especially when it comes to the efficiencies of carbon footprints, when it comes to, transporting goods and services, especially, let's say, produce up in the north. I basically had an opportunity to do somebody in my own constituency who actually has created a greenhouse, and they're actually operating right now at Sioux Valley with their containers, and they actually grow all the produce, and that goal is right now for the Federation of Co-ops is to provide all their produce. Is that something that you could be working with the communities? Is that something that Efficiency Manitoba would even look at? Is to find opportunities to save and, like all the efficiency that we have in our province to create and work with communities to promote these savings to consumers in northern communities?
Minister Schmidt? Minister Schmidt?
All due respect to the honorable member and to the honorable chair, I'm just not sure how the question is relevant to the 23-24 annual report.
Mr. Pinnock.
The minister has a point of order. The question the member is asking is not relevant to the report before us. Please move on to a different question. Mr. Pinnock.
Yeah, I just thought that there was, I just wanted to make, that we have the CEO here. I just wanted to see if there was any initiatives in the future that, again, I do have to honor the decision of this committee to reflect on what's in this past year's report. So my apologies, but maybe we'll have a side conversation in the future. Okay, does Efficiency Manitoba track heating sources by types for homes and industrial? Or how many electric versus natural gas furnaces are we looking at, and as it compares to propane or heating oil?
Ms. Carlick?
So Minister Panuke's question was just basically asking about the heating source of, I believe it was residential customers, but somewhere in there he also mentioned industrial. But necessarily as part of Efficiency Manitoba's program design, we do have that data. We're not connected to our network at this point, so if that's okay, I would say that could be something we could undertake to provide. But we of course do have estimates of how many customers are heated with propane, oil, natural gas, electricity. And I'm not sure what his reference was to industrial, if there was also a specific question in there.
Mr. Pinnock?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thanks for the question. And just when it came to the question that I had, maybe it wasn't relevant, indicated that wasn't relevant to the report, but I just wanted to say that too, that there was also in the report that my relevancy I should have been able to defend was that the future of Efficiency Manitoba. That was where I was going on that, but again, I was told that the relevancy, but there was some relevance there. But for that, I'm going to pass it on to one of my colleagues to ask a series of questions. I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Bariza for his questions.
Mr. Bariza?
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. My first question that I have is, in fact, I'm going to go back. Sorry, Honorable Chair. I'm going to continue on with the same thing that we're talking about regarding the 5,000 homes. Indication, and again, thank you for allowing me to be here today. One of the reasons I am here is I've spoken to a number of heating supply companies within the province of Manitoba. The current government's target is to hit 5,000 homes. The concern that the heating supply companies are running into is some issues regarding the one-to-one ratio regarding heating supply people in order to put these in. In order for a heating supply company, a plumber to become Red Seal is approximately, under the one-to-one, is approximately 6 years, and they said that they do not see any way possible to getting to the 5,000 target that we're talking of here. What is Efficiency Manitoba doing to ensure that we are getting to the targets that are imposed with us here today?
Ms. Carla?
Yeah, I think that we've talked a little bit about the fact that it's necessarily going to be a multi-streamed approach, and that a family, whether they're living in a single-family home or whether they're in a multi-unit residential building, still we would like to have access to the Affordable Home Energy Program. But that work is still underway, so answering specifically what are we doing, we're hoping to announce that really soon, but at this point we don't have the confirmed details of what it is specifically that we're doing for that program.
Mr. Bariza?
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. Thank you so much for the answer to that question. So do you believe that the 5,000 is an attainable goal at some point in order to get to, with the type of ratios that we're looking at here, of what the heating supply companies are saying on a one-to-one ratio basis?
Ms. Carluck?
Thank you. I was wondering whether we could seek clarification on the one-to-one ratio. I'm not sure if this is a trade certification or an apprenticeship one-to-one ratio. So,
Mr. Bariza?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Trade.
Ms. Carluck?
So we do recognize that there is challenges with the industry on geothermal heat pumps, particularly, less so on air source heat pumps. In terms of, and I don't want to say issue, but in terms of the number of installers that exist to do this work. So we do recognize that we have some work to do along with other partners within the provincial government that would possibly help us with some industry and trade association work, but it is something that we're intending to work towards, and that's the target that's been communicated, and we're aiming to do what we can to pull together a program that can get us there. Of the industry would be part of that program, and is frankly something that Efficiency Manitoba does experience with a lot of energy efficiency measures, and it's something. Some technologies will need or require necessarily more capacity building than others. And as you know, as I mentioned kind of in my opening remarks, that as energy efficiency technologies transform in the market, what we're left with is typically more complex, more expensive, whole building approaches to energy efficiency. And so all of those things have capacity building market interventions that Efficiency Manitoba can take part in. So just as a really good example, when we started moving to more performance-based building approaches for new buildings, recognizing that performance-based and energy modeling will get you more energy savings out of a new building. One of the challenges we had there with the capacity at that time is we didn't really have a lot of energy modelers in Manitoba. So one of the market interventions that was put in place was an incentive for an energy model. And so when that incentive for an energy model went in, all of a sudden there was more energy models happening, and we grew more energy modelers even in Winnipeg and Manitoba. So those market interventions are part of what Efficiency Manitoba is able to do with our focused mandate. And so we anticipate that we will be talking to MGEA and other bodies to talk about what is required for them to be successful in assisting us in meeting this mandate.
I'd like to remind everyone that questions and comments must be put through the chair using third person as opposed to directly to members and representatives. Mr. Bariza.
Honorable Speaker, first of all, thank you for the reminder on that. Question I have, again, going back to the efficiency numbers, then in 22-23, there was 43 heat pumps installed. In 23-24, there was 73 heat pumps installed. We're looking now at the current government's number of 5,000. My question is how are we going to get to this 5,000 number when we're looking at 22-23 and 23-24 with the low numbers that they had, with the barriers we are looking at regarding trades? What are some of the plans or some of the things that Efficiency Manitoba is looking at in order to hit that target? Thank you.
Ms. Carlett.
So again, I think I've mentioned that the Manitoba, the Affordable Home Energy Program, we want to make sure that all Manitobans can participate. So necessarily not every customer is going to be in a situation where they can install a geothermal heat pump. And so we think in those cases, maybe a cold climate air source heat pump might be something that can be installed for those customers. And given the industry makeup of the cold climate air source heat pump space, we're seeing a lot more installations of air source heat pumps. As noted by Mr. Stocky earlier, geothermal heat pumps are going to be the technology that is most suited for our cold climate in terms of not hitting the peak electric load of the grid, whereas air source heat pumps would provide a backup. But we recognize that in some cases, a customer is just not going to be able to install a geothermal heat pump. So air source heat pumps are definitely much higher in number in terms of what we've installed to date.
Mr. Bariza.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Thank you for the answer to that question. My last question on the heat pumps, Honorable Chair, is so the 5,000 number is obtainable, and how far into the future will it take to get to that 5,000 number in your estimation, Honorable Chair?
Ms. Carlett.
I think that question is somewhat difficult to answer at this point until we know the design parameters of the program. So once we know all the design parameters of the program, I think that'll be a question that's easier to answer.
Mr. Bariza.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I appreciate the answer. Honorable Chair, the previous minister's framework letter indicated that a directive would be issued to extend the efficiency plan to 25-26. Did this happen, and have any other directives been issued to Efficiency Manitoba, as none are reported on the proactive disclosure portal as is required?
Honorable Minister.
Well, thank you, Honorable Chair. As you mentioned, the directive was to extend out the efficiency plan by 1 year into 25-26, so that we could ensure that we get out our affordable energy plan and ensure that Efficiency Manitoba is a part of that.
Mr. Bariza.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Minister. Honorable Chair, page 14 in the Efficiency Manitoba annual report discusses revamped income thresholds. What were the old limits and what are they now? As well, how dramatic of an impact did this change make in the program usage? Thank you.
Ms. Carlick.
So the enhancement to that energy efficiency assistance program, which is targeted to income qualifying customers, was essentially the previous qualifying number was LICO, which is the low income cutoff, plus 25%. And we expanded that to low income cutoff plus 45%. And that enabled approximately 192,000 lower income customers will now apply under those guidelines. In terms of uptake due to that, like typically these processes take time, so can't say specifically whether that is translating to more, but I suspect it will be. You know, that program is doing an evaluation of the home, and we're doing insulation and then possibly heating systems plus low cost, no cost. So it is a comprehensive program that takes a bit of time to get the home through the process. So at this point, I don't know if we have numbers attributed directly to that expansion of that cutoff.
Mr. Bariza.
Honorable Speaker, would it be possible to get those numbers at some point, and when could we expect those numbers?
Ms. Carlick.
Yeah, I believe we would have that data. I'm just trying to think of how we would divide that out, because if you're asking for as a result of that increase to the cutoff, so then that would be only customers participating that are in the band between the plus 25 and the plus 45%. And do we collect data that way?
Not necessarily, depends if they're qualified by neighborhood.
Yeah.
I think we could just provide the year over year after that change. Right?
And the challenge with doing that based on finding the band between the 25 and 45 is as an additional part of the enhancement to that program. We are trying to do additional ways to make it much easier for customers to apply. So for example, we've also qualified entire neighborhoods. Neighborhoods whose postal codes we know is a high incident of income qualified customers. And so we haven't asked for necessarily the income data from those customers. So it will be, we could probably talk about what the lift has been, but trying to isolate it to that specific segment of the plus 25 to plus 45 would be difficult.
Mr. Bariza.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for that. And the question back is, that would be fine, and when could we expect that?
Ms. Carlick.
I would ask if it's sufficient for a 3-week time. Oh, sorry.
My apologies. Ms. Carlick.
I would ask the member if a 3-week timeline would be sufficient.
Mr. Bariza.
Honorable Speaker, and again, thank you for the answers to those questions. So 3-week time limit, if I understand correctly, would be approximately, we're the end of January now, so before the end of February, would that be correct? Honorable Speaker. Chairperson, sorry.
Ms. Carlick, can we agree? Oh, just Ms. Carlick.
Yeah, by my math, that would definitely fall within the end of February, so that works for me.
Mr. Breza?
Honorable Chair, the same report section indicates 40% of low to moderate income households qualify. Are there plans to expand this eligibility program further?
Ms. Carlick?
I would say that given the recency of this change, I think we're going to see how that works and if we reach more Manitobans. And I think at this point, we're gonna let this one play out for a bit to see whether we capture more income qualifying customers. So at this point, we have no plans for addressing that and opening it up further.
Mr. Breza?
Honorable Chair, thank you to the CEO for that answer. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chair, the previous Manitoba Hydro CEO had expressed concern about generating capacity being exceeded as early as the end of this decade. But of course, we're seeing hydro being bought from outside of the province at this time. Do you see a role for Efficiency Manitoba in dulling that forecast increase in usage?
Ms. Carlick?
I would respond that Efficiency Manitoba definitely has a role to play, and what the member is referring to is specific demand reduction versus energy efficiency, and there is a difference between the two. And in our mandate letter, this was also recognized by the minister at the time, which basically gave us the mandate to investigate areas of capacity constraint and reduce electrical demand and add that to our efficiency plans. So this is absolutely an area that we are interested in fact had worked on a joint consultants report with Manitoba Hydro to establish what might a demand response framework be. Necessarily, given it's related to the capacity of the grid, it would be sort of a partnership between Manitoba Hydro and Efficiency Manitoba. And how would that framework look? But again, even with energy efficiency measures today, those that are saving energy at the peak capacity of the grid are also impacting that demand. So more energy efficiency, even within our programs that exist today, we have several programs that actually do have an impact on that peak. And in 23-24, we did achieve 44.5 megawatts of load reduction. So it will be a combination of high-valued peak-reducing energy efficiency measures, as well as very specific demand response programs.
Mr. Breza?
Honorable Chair, thank you. Thank you to the CEO for that question as well, or for that answer as well too. Honorable Speaker, what additional supports would be needed to properly onboard sufficient customers to make a tangible difference on this? Thank you.
Ms. Carlick?
So as I mentioned just in my previous response, we are working through in joint collaboration with Manitoba Hydro to develop what those programs might be. We do know that the residential heating load in Manitoba is a big contributor to that peak demand that Manitoba Hydro is experiencing. So at this point, until we have what the offers might be that are designed, I would say that I'd just be speculating in terms of what take-up would make a meaningful difference. You know, at 44.5 megawatts on efficiency alone, I mean, I believe we're already making a meaningful difference. But obviously, it's going to be a collaborative effort between Manitoba Hydro and Efficiency Manitoba. So providing specific numbers of what would make a meaningful impact in terms of participation, I think would be premature at this point because we don't have the demand response programs designed. But we will be piloting some in this next year.
Mr. Brisa?
Honorable Chair, thank you very much for those answers. Honorable Chair, there's much discussion about getting off of fossil fuels. Has Efficiency Manitoba worked with Hydro to forecast what increased energy needs will be for this transition?
Ms. Carluck?
We have not. Manitoba Hydro, as part of their integrated resource planning, have been running multiple scenarios in terms of how fast the decarbonization effort goes. And so they would be the ones that are sort of holding that information on what the impacts are and how long it's going to take.
Mr. Brisa?
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chair, thank you so much for those answers. Honorable Chair, the annual report lists agriculture alongside industrial programs, but what ag-specific initiatives are available at this time?
Ms. Carluck?
As I mentioned earlier on when we were talking about Ag Days, I mean, our ag-specific initiatives are primarily an approach. So we're approaching the ag segment as a unique segment and approaching them through meeting them where they're at with their trade shows. Most of our ag customers are participating in some of our it's called custom measures program. So it may not be specific, windows and doors, but one of the programs or one of the measures under custom that I know is very specific to the ag sector is agricultural heat pads for farrowing barns. Obviously, lighting is a technology that spans across all customers, including agricultural customers. But again, the ag customers are often, there's some process-related energy that they're using, and so the custom energy measures is primarily the program that they'd be working with.
MLA Brisa?
Honorable Chair, thank you so much for those answers to those questions. Again, I'm going to stay on the agriculture approach. Right now, agriculture companies, agriculture producers in general, are being impacted by the federal carbon tax that this NDP government does support, to the tune of, in some cases, with some suppliers that I met with last week, of up to $9,200 per day in carbon tax that they're paying right now. When will Efficiency Manitoba be working together with agriculture producers in order to make them more efficient in these situations, which is costing increased cost in drying grain, increased costs in supply, and increased cost at the consumer level?
I would like to remind members that the business currently before the committee is the annual report of Efficiency Manitoba. The subject matter of the current discussion does not appear in the report in question. Could the member please explain specifically how is related to the report, or rephrase the question in a different way? I'll just recognize you, our MLA Bariza, rather.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chair, thank you so much for the reminder on that. And I'll move on from that, and I will cede the chair back to the Chair, Minister Panouk.
Mr. Panouk?
Thanks, Honorable Chair. So now I will pass it on to my my colleague, the Honorable MLA for Borderland, Mr. Gunter, to ask some questions to the CEO.
Mr. Kinder?
Thank you, Chair, and I thank my colleague for Turtle Mountain for the opportunity to ask a few questions, and I thank the CEO as well for her testimony here today. I think has been helpful. Just in layman's terms, and for those who are watching and for the folks back home, I'm wondering if the CEO can describe the role of Efficiency Manitoba and the relationship with Manitoba Hydro.
Ms. Gerlach?
Yeah, Manitoba Hydro plays a key role in Efficiency Manitoba's entire existence. I mean, we are a ratepayer-funded organization, so with the exception of funding that we may receive from federal government, our funding is received from Manitoba Hydro, and that is directly as a result of the value of the saved energy to Manitoba Hydro. And so we receive marginal values for both electricity and natural gas, also called avoided costs in other jurisdictions, but marginal values, and that tells us what the value is to Manitoba Hydro with us saving of energy. And so, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, now more so than ever, with the decarbonization efforts that we're seeing that are moving both or all of industrial processes, heating, and transportation to the electrical grid, energy efficiency is more important now so than ever. In terms of our relationship with Manitoba Hydro, we're very involved in their integrated resource planning process. So both Mr. Stocky and I sit on the technical advisory committee where we're being asked for our opinion and reviewing some of the inputs that they do for efficiency. And energy efficiency is seen as a source of supply in meeting that electrical load that's coming. And with our targets being in legislation, essentially Efficiency Manitoba, this exists quite a bit in the United States and jurisdictions in the US, but we're seen as an energy efficiency resource standard. So there's a requirement that 1.5% of the load is to be met by energy efficiency and 0.75% on the gas side. So I hope that covers the member's question. It was a bit broad, so.
Mr. Ginter?
Thank you, Chair, and I thank the CEO. It was a broad question, but it just the purpose of it was simply to allow the CEO to explain to Manitobans, who are, who might want to know, what's the purpose for Efficiency Manitoba, and how does that relate to Manitoba Hydro? So I thank the CEO for her answer. We've talked a little bit today about some of the programs briefly. I think I'm wondering if the CEO can perhaps provide just highlights of the suite of programs that are available, I'll think I'll leave it at that.
Ms. Karluk?
And thank you for that. I would say that the member's question it's a big one. And maybe I'll answer it first by saying if there's a technology that exists that saves energy, we're likely supporting it. So the important thing to note is that we're not just doing residential programs, we're doing business-specific programs, agricultural, lower income, which obviously we know requires probably more of a contribution. It's a very typical evolution in terms of demand-side management providers that are doing these kind of programs in jurisdictions, that reaching those harder-to-reach savings are very typical in portfolios now. It's an evolution of the field. And again, one of the lesser-known areas that we have programming, and I kind of mentioned it on the custom energy solution side, but lesser known is our industrial customers. And we work a lot with industrial customers to save energy in their processes. And those projects can span several years, but they can also be significant savings.
Mr. Ginter?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I asked that question because I often get asked by constituents who may be setting up a business or undertaking some sort of project, and you know, they want to know, is there any government help available? And so I just, you know, I'm not always aware of what programs are out there, but you know, if I can, as you're saying, direct them to Efficiency Manitoba, and Efficiency Manitoba will work with them. You know, I don't know if based on your answer you're referring to like any kind of like custom type, or you're you know, or if you work. I know within government, unless there's a program that's available, there's really no mechanism for you know, funding various projects and things like that. So you know, how does Efficiency Manitoba work?
Ms. Karalik?
I would suggest to the member, obviously, if they're talking to customers or constituents that may be customers, I would say don't feel obligated to have all the information, direct them to us. We have a team of folks that are more than happy to help customers with walking through what their efficiency journey might look like. Right now, in order to assist with that, we have an energy audit for commercial customers, so they could start there. Here's an energy audit of your business, and here's the opportunities that are available to you. Likewise, on the residential side, soon to be coming, we will be having an EnerGuide evaluation offer, and that's essentially to replace the federal government's offer that was in place with the Canada Greener Homes program. So that gives residential customers a really good picture of how their home's energy is being used and what could be available to them for incentives and retrofits. And of course, another really simple way to address those questions is direct them to our website. So our website has our offers divided out by home, business. So it's a really easy way to navigate what offers might be available. So, and or send them our way. We appreciate talking to customers no matter where they're at in their journey for energy efficiency.
Mr. Ginter?
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate that answer. It's good to know. Yeah, I would like to know a little bit more, though, about the programs that are available. You've referenced the Windows and Doors program. I think, you know, the public is often so bombarded with different information that they don't really understand what's available, perhaps. And I understand you're, you know, going to trade shows and you know, reaching the ag sector or the industrial sector that way. But I think for, you know, and doing advertising and things like that. But, you know, just in very simple terms, kind of what is available to Manitobans, and yeah, you mentioned you know, calling for an assessment. I think that's helpful, but I think there's got to be some sort of document or something that outlines, perhaps somewhat concisely, what's available.
Ms. Karalik?
So I would respond to Mr. Gunter, and I guess if, you know, maybe you're referring to customers that may not be as comfortable visiting a website, which is entirely possible. We do hold a public annual review, and we go through our programs in details there. Page 16 of our annual report does highlight all the different offers that we have available. And we're not just going to Ag Days and agricultural focused trade shows. We are at the home show, I think that just passed, or is coming up. It's very soon. So we're at those shows as well. And I know that we do have pamphlets and brochures, and we do advertise amazingly still in Manitoba Hydro Bill inserts. It's a very popular forum for reaching Manitobans. We always see a lift when we're doing placements in that forum. but I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Gunter?
Thanks, Chair. How many Manitobans have taken advantage of various programs? And I appreciate the reference to page 16 in the fiscal report, but there is or annual report. But I'm wondering if we could get information on how many Manitobans or homeowners have taken advantage of these various programs.
Ms. Kralik?
So the pause in our response to the member's question is, you know, when we talk about participation, it's difficult because it might be a household, it might be a measure. To say that, you know, recently we had a news release that said we've had just reached over 1 million products rebated through our retail rebate campaign. And so that may be 1 million plus products, but maybe a customer purchased 3. So that's the pause on the difficulty in answering that. But in terms of customers, we could undertake to provide a rough estimate of the number of Manitobans that have participated in programs since Efficiency Manitoba's inception.
Mr. Gunter?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm just looking for more information on the uptake of these various programs, and perhaps the CEO could, I mean, you've got to have some information to understand, you know, what's working, what isn't, and that sort of thing. So, and perhaps the CEO has thoughts on you know, what programs have been really successful and you know, continue to be you know, popular with Manitobans. And perhaps there are those that aren't, you know, but and maybe they just need to be publicized a little more. But I'm wondering if the CEO has thoughts on what's worked and what hasn't.
Ms. Kralik?
Yeah, one thing I'd say in response to that question is if we've implemented a program that we know would be beneficial for Manitobans to partake in and they're not, we would definitely be looking to enhance that or make changes to it. And as noted in our annual report from this past year, 23-24, we've listed out all the enhancements that were made. And so we definitely will not put out a program that has low participation and be happy with that staying there. You know, we have a bunch of pivots and different enhancements that we're implementing in the upcoming year as well. And so we don't rest when we see a program that's performing poorly. Which ones are you said the member had mentioned which ones are doing well and which ones are doing poorly. So I guess I could talk about well. I mean, we've seen a lot of participation in windows and doors. Our commercial lighting program is always a tremendous participation and energy savings in that, and that's, you know, primarily because lighting is a ubiquitous technology. Everyone has it. Insulation is a very successful program with our within our portfolio, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that our installer industry has really rallied around that program. So I don't have the number of installers that are registered with Efficiency Manitoba, but I know it has grown tremendously. And in fact, from previous delivery of home installation program, when it resided at Manitoba Hydro, in the very, very first years of that program, the insulation industry was quite small, and then the offering of that program really grew it tremendously. So insulation is an amazing measure. Maybe because it doesn't plug into an outlet, folks may not think of it as an energy saver, but it's a tremendous program for us that also carries with it other benefits such as home comfort and good resale on a home.
Mr. Victor, apologies.
Thank you, Chair. And I thank the CEO for her answers today. I think probably my last question would just be as far as, the customer service side facing the public. There may be some folks out there who would take advantage of these programs, but because of the hoops and things like that, the paperwork and all that, they're we'll just go in. And I guess maybe, if they can pay for it, that's fine. For those folks who, would be in more need of the support or the program that's available, I'm sure they'd be perhaps willing to put up with a little more of the, jumping through the hoops and going through all that. I understand you don't want fraud. We don't want abuse of any programs, but at the same time, how nimble is Efficiency Manitoba with responding to, calls and inquiries from Manitobans or businesses, and what are the standards?
Ms. Carlick?
Yeah, and I thank Mr. Gunter for that question. And you'll be happy to note we don't have paperwork. So we have moved our entire process to an online system that is a portal that both our contractors, vital for uptake and efficiency programs, as well as our customers can access. And I believe they might be in this report, but we've had numerous customer accolades about how simple it is now to participate in efficiency programs. And so our standards are quite high. We're looking for a 90% customer satisfaction rate, and we've hit 89. Within this annual report, I believe it also talks about our Net Promoter Score, which we've been told is a phenomenal score of, I believe we're sitting at 81, and Net Promoter basically takes your promoting customers, those are the customers scoring either 9 or 10 on satisfaction, and subtracts all your detractor customers, which is everything from 6 and below, and we're sitting at 81. So that's a big sign, and we've heard in terms of other industries or other companies that use Net Promoter Score that is quite high. There's always room to improve. We'll always run into a customer that for whatever reason, maybe they don't like to use a portal or they don't have the computer savvy to do so. But our intent is to meet customers where they're at, and we want to make sure that we're offering energy savings opportunities for everyone. And so we would look at those customers on an individual basis. In terms of how we respond to customers or timeline metrics, I suspect my customer experience team does have some of those metrics. I don't have them at the top of my head. But again, like I said, the accolades that we've received in both our customer surveys that ask for customer comments, as well as the metrics that we do measure, has told us that we're doing pretty good so far.
Mr. Pinnock?
Honorable Chair, and I'm just looking at the Efficiency Manitoba report, the annual report. It shows salaries, they went from 2024 from 8.5 million to over 9.5 million. For $1 million, it's more than way more than 10%. What is the contribution of that? I know Efficiency Manitoba is just a relatively newer, but is that the mandate to look at continuing to build up your staffing and for other programs? Can you contribute to what why it went up by over $1 million in the last fiscal year. Where's budget to go? Dollars in the coming year.
Mr. Panook, so you can finish the
Yeah,
rest
thank
of
you,
your statement, please.
Honorable Chair. It's just basically, I just realized that it's budgeted for over $1 million. So I just want to know if there's plans for expansion of staffing, and is that what's contributing to the increase in the staffing?
Ms. Karalik?
Yeah, so Mr. Panook has asked about the budget of 9.5 million that you see on page 51, which I will also note is only 13% of our budget. So we're not a large shop, but that budget is being compared to some actuals for 23-24 on that same page 51, and so the $9.5 million budget, I believe, is nearly the same as the budget we had in year 1, 2, and 3 of our efficiency plan. So we're finally catching up to what our labor budget was. So, you know, as a new organization, you know, I started on January 2nd as the first employee and only employee. So there is a big ramp up in onboarding of hiring folks. And so in terms of dollar spend, we're just starting to hit our budget now. So, yeah.
Mr. Panook?
Thanks, Honorable Chair, and thanks for the CEO for clarifying that. I just want to know, like, you know, it's in new infancy stage of the company, and I just wanted to, you know, if there's, you know, looking at, you know, more programs, more staffing, more opportunities to bring more revenue. So that was where I was going at, and I just have one more question before I pass over to one of my other colleagues here. Building and the tenant specific programs. How does the in-suite energy efficiency program specifically benefits tenants in multi-units residential buildings? And then plus, are there tenants involved in or informed about the energy efficiency improvements made to their units?
Ms. Karalik?
So just as some preamble for in-suite, in-suite and multi-unit residential buildings are typically a challenging space for delivering energy efficiency because not at all times is the in-suite participant actually paying the bill. Sometimes they are and sometimes they're not, and I think you've heard the term hot rent. Sometimes their heat's included and sometimes they're paying for it. So just indicating now that there's a challenge with that type of, they call it, in our industry, they call it a split incentive. So the people that are recognizing the bill savings may not be the people living in the suite. And so I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Stocky to talk about the details of that program.
Mr. Stocky?
Thank you. So yeah, the in-suite program, as Ms. Karlik said, is directed for property managers and owners of multi-unit residential buildings to basically upgrade the suites through low-cost, no-cost measures that are basically installed by one of our service delivery partners. So that would include things like lighting, could include pipe wrap, faucet aerators, things like that. Multi-unit residential buildings, of course, aren't limited to just participating in that in-suite program. They're also can be available to programs like our build-assist lighting program for common areas, building envelope program for the entire envelope, including roof or wall insulation, things like that. So a multi-unit residential building isn't limited to just participating in that one program, but they can access multiple of our offers.
Mr. Panook?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and I just thank you for that information, the valuable information. I just have a follow-up on that and say, what specific incentives and financial support does Efficiency Manitoba to developers, contractors, and municipalities involved in designing and construction of energy-efficient buildings.
Mr. Stocky?
So thank you for the question. For developers, in particular for buildings, we have a very comprehensive offer called the New Buildings Offer. And so that is based on a performance-based incentive. So essentially we work with the design team early on and support the whole building modeling of the new building. So we provide incentives to the designers, to the energy modelers to lower the first cost of that so that they can model all the integration of all the systems and optimize the design to, of course, optimize energy and maximize energy efficiency savings. Once that work is done, we also offer capital incentives for the actual construction of that building, and we encourage new buildings to also go through and create a comprehensive systems operating manual and provide additional incentives for that work in order to ensure that that building not only is built, but it's actually running to spec. And so our incentives, as I mentioned, are performance-based. So the baseline is essentially meeting current building code, and then our incentives go above and beyond that. So depending on how much better the building is, the incentive per square foot performance-based actually goes up. So 30% above code building will get a much richer incentive than, say, a 20 or 10% building over code.
Mr. Bennett?
Yeah, thanks, Honorable Chair. And now I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Mr. Bariza.
MLA Bariza?
Honorable Chair, thank you so much. Just on page 15, I want to reference solar rebate, and I'll just read it. We've removed $25,000 cap on commercial solar projects and introduced a new application process to support increased participation in commercial and agricultural sectors. This enhancement has received positive industry feedback. Could you please give us some examples or what is going on to bring the agriculture sector on board with this?
Ms. Karlik?
I believe I did address some of that, or a portion of that answer or question in our earlier conversation with Mr. Panook, which is, we have put in place a business development rep that is working directly with agricultural customers. And we do participate in not only ag days, but potato days. I don't know if it's chicken days, but the trade shows for the different agricultural industries. So I would suspect that that's where we're getting our message across, that these incentives are available. And also, again, as I mentioned, hugely important, we can't underscore it enough, is the suppliers and contractors and installers that are selling our programs. And so as soon as this cap was lifted, you better believe that the industry partners delivering this program were making that known to potential participants.
MLA Bariza?
Honorable Speaker, thank you, and thank you to the CEO for that for that answer. Which brings me to another question at that. Has there been discussions with Manitoba Agriculture about the impact of taking valuable agricultural land out of production and put into solar, what we've seen as solar farms in the U.S. and other parts of the world, and what that impact will have on the agricultural sector? Thank you.
Ms. Karlik?
I believe Mr. Bariza is probably referring to utility scale type solar. And so utility scale solar is not a space where Efficiency Manitoba is involved. So our solar program is essentially behind the meter, is what we call it. So it's solar systems that are serving one building and displacing some of the load that that building would have with the solar energy versus the grid energy. And so we do still incent customers that choose to do a ground-mounted system, but obviously that's at the customer's choice. So obviously they would be selecting what area of ground they would like to have a ground-mounted system if that's the direction that they go. So in terms of the question as it was posed, I do believe you might be referring, or he might be referring to utility scale type solar generation, which again is more so on Manitoba Hydro's responsibility.
MLA Bariza.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for that. Thank you to the CEO for answering that question. So if I'm not mistaken here, and again, my apologies if I misinterpreted what was here. So currently, Efficiency Manitoba is not looking at any larger projects like solar farms in order to enhance and help with the delivery of Efficiency Manitoba. Is that correct?
Ms. Karlik?
That response was correct. We're not looking, but I'll just with a slight nuance, we are not looking to solar farms under our mandate to assist with the energy supply for the province.
MLA Bariza?
Honorable Speaker, thank you so much for taking my questions today. Thank you to the CEO for providing the answers to those questions that I asked, especially regarding agriculture. At this point, I'll cede the floor back to the chair as I have no further questions at this point.
Mr. Pinnock?
Thanks, Honorable Chair, and yeah, I want to thank also the CEO for giving the information, and along with her Vice President and the board chair for the information that was passed to us today. Thanks for your time, and I think we got a lot of information that we needed to understand where Efficiency Manitoba is going to, and also where we are when it comes to this current government too. So I want to thank you for your time and your information, and I'd be ready for the question moving forward here.
Seeing no further questions, I will now put the question on the report. Shall the annual report of Efficiency Manitoba for the fiscal year ending March 31, 2024 pass?
Pass.
The report is accordingly passed. The hour being 3:20 p.m. What is the will of the committee? Rise. Committee rise.